Okay guys, so this is where we left off in the previous video. And in this video, we're going to talk about making it so that the constructor method also sets the numerator and denominator, okay? So to do that, we're going to go into the fraction.java class, or file. And what you can do, just like in any other method where you can pass parameters, we can do the same thing to constructors. So what we're going to do is we're going to say int numerator and int denominator. We're going to pass those in as parameters. And then within this fraction, we need to, we're going to use a new keyword, and it's this. And we're going to say this dot numerator equals numerator, and this dot denominator equals denominator. Okay? And the reason you need to use the word this is because these, this is also like a scoping issue we talked about in the basics tutorials. But pretty much, if you just say numerator equals numerator, you're referencing this numerator. So you need to escape the scope of this method and access the class variables, okay, these instance variables, okay? So we need to talk about the fractions numerator is equal to the number we passed in. Now, if you don't want to use the keyword this, you could also just not name this the same thing. Okay? So I'm going to do that with the denominator just to kind of show you guys. So you could also do this. This dot numerator equals numerator, because you need to escape scope for this variable. But then for denominator, since the names aren't the same, you can just say denominator equals d, okay? But if someone else was going to read this, it may make more sense for them if denominator is also denominator, and then you just reference it as this instead of just this kind of poorly named variable, okay? So now we're going to make use of that over in main, and you'll notice that we have an error, and that is that fraction cannot, see how it says fraction int, and fraction cannot be applied to that? And that's because there's no matching method, no constructor method matching this no parameter method call we're making. So if we just say 7, 9 right there, and then I'm going to comment these lines out, and then run this, okay? And you'll see that it printed out the same thing, okay? So you can also do that, and we're going to talk about one other little issue in this tutorial, and that's going to be overloading methods, okay? So let's say that you don't always know the numerator and denominator. Maybe you just want to make one and then set the numerator and denominator later. So you would need a method or a constructor that doesn't take any parameters, okay? And what we can do is we can instantiate its instance variables as just default numbers, okay? So basically, if we pass fraction and 2 integers, it'll use this method. But if we don't pass it 2 integers, it knows to use this method, okay? Well, if you pass it no parameters. If you pass it 1, you're still going to get an error because there's not a matching method. But let's go ahead and just see that in action. So this is using, I'll just write a comment, using the 2 parameter constructor. And then sometimes no parameter constructors are called default. So we'll just refer to it as that, the default constructor. So if we say fraction, default fraction equals new fraction. And then if we just system.out this default fraction dot numerator. Here, sorry, I hit the wrong button there. And then default fraction dot denominator. And let's go ahead and just run this. And you'll see there that it used the default constructor the first time and printed out 0, 1. And then in the second constructor, or on the second object, it went ahead and printed out the numbers that we passed it in the constructor, okay? So that's really some basics of overloading methods, because we have 2 methods that are called the same thing, namely the constructor. And you also learned about the keyword this, okay? And then the next video, we'll talk about getters and setters, but thanks for watching, guys.